What's up YouTube? Brian here, back again with another high-end rod review video. It is Black Friday 2020. Finn is in the building. We're going to talk about the Megabass P5 Destroyer Landsat review. First off, just want to give a quick shout out to my Instagram. You should hit me up and follow me. It is @punchfishing. The link is in the description. Also, while you're out looking around for your Black Friday deals, please check out Omnia Fishing. They are doing 20% off site-wide right now. And if you're a member, you get another 10% back in credits into your account. So you're essentially going to get 30% with any purchase you're making through their Black Friday deal. So please check them out. Now that that's out of the way, this is a review that I've been kind of hemming and hawing about for a while because we're going to go a little deep into drop shotting and drop shot rods. And we're going to talk about Megabass and we're going to talk about NRX. So first off, I want to talk about just this rod, the Megabass P5 Landsat. So this is an F3 611, which sounds awful familiar. Most of you know the F3 611 as the Whipsnake. So same specs essentially as a Whipsnake, and we're going to bring up this rod quite a bit when we're talking about this rod, because in my opinion, the Landsat is essentially a Whipsnake on a diet and a big price bump. So the Whipsnake retails at $300. It's in the Orochi series. It's been out for a while. The Orochi XX line is a little long in the tooth for Megabass standards, but it is a really good rod line. But so the Whipsnake's been out for a minute. The Landsat is the new hotness. This is the brand new version of this rod. I'd say the blanks and the actions are actually really similar, with maybe a little minute differences here and there. But this is a Whipsnake on a diet. And when I say Whipsnake on a diet, let me go through some of the weight differences here, because I think that's a very key thing when you're looking at the Landsats versus the NRX versus a Destroyer Addermine versus a Whipsnake, or maybe even some of the Levante rods. The P5s are light. Megabass, when they drop these P5 rods, these things are NRX conquest level lightness, finally. So you're paying out the nose for these things. This rod is a nauseating $475 MSRP, but this rod weighs, I got the numbers written down, I'm gonna get this right. On my scale, with no reel and nothing on the rod, no hook keeper or anything, it weighed in at 3.49 ounces. So 3.49. The Orochi Whipsnake is 4.18. So 4.18 ounce, 3.49 ounce. Now let's get a comparison real quick. The NRX 822 drop shot rod, like what everyone considers one of the best drop shot rods in the world, this thing is one of the lightest rods I've ever owned. I mean, this thing weighs like a feather because there's really not much to it. But this rod weighs in at 3.26 ounce. So 3.26, 3.49, and then the Whipsnake is at 4.18. And just for comparisons, the Addermine, which I actually picked up pretty recently, the Addermine is 4.31 ounces. So this thing is a tank compared to the Landsat. And the Addermine is also a 611. Yep. So 611, same lengths, 611 3.5 power. So this is 1 power higher than the Landsat, but it is 4.18 ounces versus 3.49 ounces. So this thing is light, crazy light. So shout out to Megabass for finally getting a really lightweight rod out there for the high prices. So let's talk about the Landsats. Let's talk about the P5s in general versus the U.S. destroyers, or even just the previous destroyer models. So the biggest differences between this rod and this rod is the fit and finish is completely different. This rod is very blingy, lots of gold accents, lots of flourishes in the guide wrappings. The guides themselves have way more material in the epoxy and the wrappings. So when you compare, like, let's just look at the guide wrappings between these two. So if you notice, look how much less material there is on the Landsat on the top versus the Addermine on the bottom. So they've just used a lot less material on the P5s. So if you want more of a muted, less flashy look, the entire P5 series is that. The destroyers, and these are the outgoing models, so these US destroyers are actually being discontinued. And these remodels, the models in the US Destroyer line are going to be relaunched on this P5 platform. So you're going to have an FMJ on the P5, and you're going to have a Javelin on the P5, but that stuff's not going to be out, I heard, until late 2021, maybe early 2022. So if you can find these US Destroyers on sale over the winter, jump on them, because these rods are going away. and they're going to be rebooted and probably going to be more expensive. So grab these while you can. So anyway, the P5 is an evolution from the previous Destroyer models. The fit and finish is much more muted. There's less going on material-wise, and the handles are the biggest difference. I mean, look at the difference in the handle from the Addermine to the Landsat. You notice there's a lot less cork. The grips are much smaller. Here, let's go to the back. So that's the lock nut difference. So the lock nuts are lined up at the back. The old Destroyer handles are much bigger. And then look at the butt. The P5s have little teeny butts. A lot of people are like, I don't like the little tiny butt handles on the whole series. Now, Megabass downsized the butt handles on the P5s, but they added weights. There's weight inside the butt handles to give these things better balance without having more material. So on the old Destroyers, they had a lot of material down here to counterbalance. Megabass said, hey, let's make really small butts, but let's throw weights in there, and that'll give us the balance. So there's the big differences between the US Destroyer and the P5. I don't know if anyone's really held these up and compared them anywhere on the internet before, but to me, I think that's a fairly significant difference. Now, grip-wise, I like the old grips better, because as you know, if you watch my channel, I choke up. So when I'm choking up on the Addermine or any Destroyer or Orochi that has this big grip, this is perfect for me. You get your 2 fingers right on the cork. You can choke up and not have to touch the rod blink, which I find really, really comfortable. So the handles, I've never had a complaint on the Destroyer or the Orochi spinning rod handles. Love them, always will love them. I think they were one of the best designs out there. Super great. When the P5s came out, I was like, oh, why did they ruin the handle? The handle on the old Megabass spinning rods is awesome. Why did they go to this little, it's like a little sliver of cork here, a little sliver of cork on the lock nut on the back, and then this kind of like really chunk of plastic in the middle. I don't know what they're calling this thing. This is a Megabass design. They don't outsource their, they don't buy from a supplier like Fuji when they use their grips. They make their own. Now, in practice, how does this grip feel? It's okay. I will say the middle part here where you put your middle fingers on is super, super comfortable. When I'm choking up, I'm still kind of getting my fingers. Well, here, let me choke up. When I choke up, I'm still getting my fingers kind of here on the blank material, which I don't love. I really wish that this cork was maybe another ½ inch higher. There's a little more there so that my index finger and my thumb could really get on the cork instead of the blank. So I would say in the grip, I don't love the new P5 grips for spinning rods. On the casting rods, they're great. I love them. On the spinning rods, I'm not in love with this. I give this like, it's not as good as the old ones. I still like the old ones better. This is, to me, is not an improvement. It's actually a step backwards as far as just comfortability, or as far as comfort. Now, balance-wise, even with the way more minimalist grip and the teeny tiny little white girl booty on the back here, the balance point is fantastic. And this is with a Tatula LT 3000 spinning reel. So this is a lightweight spinning reel, you know, which most people are going to throw on these things. And let's check the balance. So with a pretty short grip and a pretty minimalistic handle, that weight that's down in the butt really does make a difference. This thing is balanced superbly for a 6'11" lightweight spinning rod. I mean, that is really, really good. So when I have my fingers on there, my front index finger is basically right on the balance point. And when you're holding this rod, it's extremely well balanced. So I got to give a shout out that the balance on this thing is great. Fit and finish is fantastic. Price point, $475 is a ransom for these things. I think that price is really, really high. Even with 20% off, you're still looking at a fairly expensive rod. The warranty hasn't changed. It's still the same Megabass warranty where you have to be the original owner and you have to have a receipt to get a free replacement. You get one free replacement if you break it. No questions asked. And I think that's only in the first year, but check the Megabass warranty website. It's not great. So they haven't made improvements in the warranty. Now, guide-wise, they do not have Torzite. The P5s, I believe, are using a what's called SIC-S guide material. I think it's the same material that's on the Poison Adrenas. So you're getting a titanium SIC-S guide train, so no Torzite for the money. So St. Croix, you're still getting a Torzite guide train in a $400 ride if you go to Legend X or Legend Elites. So to me, that's still a really good buy. Now let's talk about this particular rod's action. And that is where this rod shines. So this rod is kind of labeled as being a drop shot rod. Now, this rod has the typical Megabass 3-power spinning rod, deep parabolic action. So when you bend test this rod, the tip is going literally all the way down. You're getting bend in the tip all the way from the tip all the way down to the second guide from the bottom. So you're not hitting the backbone on this rod till about right here. And under full load, you're actually getting a little bend past this first guide. So this whole front half, I mean this right here, that is all tip. It's really, really deep down to about right here. So this action is extremely similar to the Whipsnake. So let me pick up the Whipsnake here real quick. And I have it on an LT3000 as well. So the exact same reel that's on the Landsat. So let me show you the balance point on that. So the balance point's pretty dang similar, really good. The Orochi is a little heavier. You know, not by much, 3.49 versus 4.18, so a little heavier, but this is also only $300, considerably cheaper than the Landsat. Now, the same thing on this parabolic bend. This bend goes way down the blink. So I would actually say that the Landsat is maybe a little squishier than the Whipsnake, but honestly, I was doing so many bend tests with the Whipsnake and the Landsat. I was doing both hands, everything, and there's not a significant enough difference between the two to really say if one is like better or different than the other. I would say, like I said, the best comparison I can make about the Landsat is that it's a Whipsnake on a diet. It's a much lighter, crispier, upgraded, new version of the Whipsnake. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I think it really is. Sensitivity-wise, these rods are both really sensitive. For the $475, you are getting really, really good sensitivity on the Landsat. And you are also getting pretty dang good sensitivity on the Whipsnake. Now, if I had to give a who wins in the sensitivity department, I honestly don't know. They both have really good sensitivity. The Landsat is a crisper, lighter rod. It's a lot more fun to fish because it is so much lighter. And the next thing I want to talk about is its comparison to what is many people call the apex drop shot rod, the 822 DSR. Now this NRX 822 DSR to me is way, 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 way too light. This rod is so light. This thing bends all the way down to the first guide. The parabolic action goes all the way from the tip down to the first guide. This leads to a philosophical discussion about what kind of drop shotter you are. If you're a drop shotter that's on the front of your boat, drop shotting straight down off the bow, and you're video game fishing with light line, using your electronics, you can totally use the DSR. The 822 is going to be great for just straight vertical fishing where you want a short rod with a lot of bend and you can lift up and really set that hook straight up. If you're casting out, if you're the kind of drop shotter that makes casts out, lets it hit the bottom, and then you're a lifter, because there's a lot of people that don't drop shot vertically under the boat. They throw it out, they let it hit the bottom, and then they do a lift retrieve. They reel, they lift. They reel, they lift. They don't do a lot of action. They do a lot of like swimming the bait along slowly. This is not the rod for you. This does not have that power. This is not going to get fish out of the grass. I don't like fishing this rod anywhere around grass. This is if you're fishing a lot of rocks, you're fishing a lot of deep water right in front of the boat, you're fishing flats. You're not fishing around a lot of vegetation. The 822 is going to be fine, but I like the 611 3-power Megabass rods, either the Orochi or the Landsat, for just more all-around drop shot work. I like to cast out. I like to fish robo worms and almost dead stick them and just lift and drop. I don't put a lot of action on my baits when I'm out fishing drop shots. I like letting the bait do the work and then just keeping contact and doing lifting and kind of bringing it in. That is where the Landsat shines. That's where the Whipsnake shines. I think they're both really good rods for that technique. I got to tell you something too. Free rigging. Now, mid-season, I started free rigging a lot with the Landsat, and this rod is awesome for free rigging. If you don't know what free rigging is, Google it, look it up. Maybe I'll leave a link in the description for some good free rigging videos. But I found this to be an awesome rod for free rigging. I had really good sensitivity. I caught a lot of smallmouth free rigging on plastic craws with this rod. And actually, I started to like free rigging on this rod more than drop shotting, just because it got caught up way less. And I was actually getting a lot of really good bites in deep water on the free rig versus the drop shot. Now, I kept the drop shot rigged up on some other rods, like this guy. So You know, it's just another great technique. This could definitely 100% be used for Ned rigging or throwing finesse paddle tail swim baits. So if you're a paddle tail swim bait fisherman, you throw Ned rigs, the Landsat can do all that. I would actually consider the Landsat to be a very deep parabolic bend, almost a medium light. I would say it's kind of between a medium and a medium light. It's not super spongy like this, like a medium light drop shot rod would be for like the NRX, I would say, but it's not as stiff as like the X-Pride 7-foot medium, or even as stiff as the Addermine. So the Addermine is a 3.5 power. This is more of a traditional medium. Still has like a nice soft tip, but the Addermine is definitely more towards the medium, and this is like, I would say, a medium light plus, or like right in between a medium and a medium light as far as power. I really like the Landsat. It is an awesome rod. It is one of my most used rods all season. I had this thing out on the deck just as much as my Conquest and my NRXs. I either had this thing tied up with a drop shot or with a free rig all season, and it was always out and used. Catching a fish on this rod is so much fun. It has a ton of power. The sensitivity is great. The grip is, I wish the grip was a little better. I kind of like the old grips better. I'm not a big fan of the rebooted grips on the spinning rods. I'll live with it. I don't think it's terrible, but I like the old ones better. So that's kind of my review on the Landsat. It's the new version of the Whipsnake. Is the action much different than the Whipsnake? No. Is the parabolic bend about the same as the Whipsnake? Yes. The guides has the same amount of guides. It's lighter. So if you have a Whipsnake, do not feel like you need to upgrade to the Landsat. You're not getting that dramatically different of a rod except for its weight. Now, if you are looking at a Whipsnake and you want to drop a few more bucks and get the lighter, crispier, better looking, and I mean, in my opinion, I like the muted look of the P5s more than the kind of the blingy look of the Orochis. You know, spend away, go for it. If you want the ultimate drop shot rod, I'd say it's a really, 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 really good drop shot rod. I don't know if there is a such thing as an ultimate drop shot rod, just because most people fish drop shots differently. To some people, the NRX 822 is the ultimate drop shot rod. To some people, it's going to be 7.3 medium heavy. I don't like trying to recommend drop shot rods to people until you find out what type of drop shotter they are. Do you drop shot right along grass lines where you like to actually go into the grass a little bit? Are you drop shotting rocks? Are you drop shotting ledges in 40 feet of water? You know, are you drop shotting natural lakes? Are you drop shotting muck? Are you drop shotting offshore reefs? I mean, I don't really want to say what is the best drop shot rod out there, because that all depends on you and the type of drop shotting you like to do. But I would say if you want an all-around versatile drop shot rod, pick up either the Whipsnake or take a look at the Landsat. I think they're going to both really touch the boxes, and they're going to be versatile rods that can do other things besides drop shotting. They're going to be able to do the Ned rigging. They're going to be able to do the paddle tail swim baits. You know, they're going to be able to do a lot of those finesse applications. I would have no problem throwing a wacky Senko around docks with the Landsat. This thing has plenty of power for that. This tip isn't as stiff as, you know, like a X-Pride 7-foot medium, but, you know, this can do a lot of double duties for those kinds of things. This would actually probably be a really good jerkbait rod too, because of that deep parabolic action on this thing. If you're going to throw like smaller, finessier jerkbaits, I think this rod would actually be really good for that. But that's it. That's my review on the Megabass P5 Destroyer Landsat. I will gladly take questions on this rod in the comments. So until next time, we'll see you on the next rod review. Everybody, take it easy.